Israel's critics have been out in full force since Operation Cast Lead began in Gaza last month. Thousands of anti-Israel protesters have taken to the streets in Europe and America. And as Eric Stackelback reports, many are calling for the destruction of the Jewish state.
It's the kind of footage we're used to seeing in the Middle East. Groups of angry Muslim men burning Israeli flags and chanting anti-Israel slogans. But this isn't the West Bank or Gaza. It's Athens, Greece, one of the cradles of Western civilization. In London, a similar scene, as riot police try to control thousands of unruly anti-Israel protesters. And here in the U.S., chants of Allah is great reverberated through the streets of New Orleans over the weekend. As Israel battles Hamas terrorists in Gaza, demonstrations against the Jewish state are intensifying across America and Western Europe, where thousands of anti-Israel protesters have converged on cities like Paris, Berlin, London, and Madrid. American states from Florida all the way to California have seen a similar phenomenon, and things have frequently gotten ugly.
You see nuke Israel signs and kill the Jews signs and all that. These are very belligerent protests. These are not peace marches.
Cliff May is the president of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies in Washington.
What you do not see at these protests are people saying, we want peace. We understand that sacrifices will have to be made for peace.
So who are these protesters? The large majority are Muslims who have emigrated to Europe, a continent whose Muslim population is now some 20 million strong and growing daily. America is also seeing a growth in its Muslim population, a trend reflected in protests like this one in Washington, D.C.
You have to stop the killing. You have to stop the killing of children of Gaza.
Western Muslims have even been joined by the radical left in condemning Israel's action in Gaza. This man, calling for a new Palestinian intifada, or uprising against Israel, is a member of Holland's Socialist Party and a Dutch parliamentarian. Indeed, there have been several incidents of anti-Jewish violence in Europe over the past week. A group of Arab men opened fire on Israeli workers at a Copenhagen shopping mall, injuring 2. Muslims in Antwerp, Belgium threatened to storm a Jewish neighborhood. And a gang of pro-Palestinian demonstrators rampaged through the heart of London's Jewish community.
It's unclear that there is a future for Jews in Europe. I would go that far. But it is unclear that there's a future in Europe for Europeans as well.
Although they haven't been nearly as large, there have been several counter-protests in support of Israel here in the U.S. But so far, they've lacked the numbers and the volume of the West's growing anti-Israel bloc. Eric Stackelback, CBN News, Washington.
So, Pat, it's obvious that peace is not the goal of these protesters.
Of course not. Lee, as I was praying at the beginning or at the end of the year, actually, the Lord made it clear that this is the most dangerous time in Israel's history, and that as Israel acted forcefully to defend itself against the Palestinian uprising and the attacks of Hamas, that the world was going to come down on them, and that there would be sanctions. Before long, the UN is going to make sanctions. You mark my word, and I don't think the United States is going to veto an action by the Security Council. And these demonstrations, though, are not official. These are unofficial, but it shows millions and millions of people screaming for blood and killing of Jews. It's a terrible sight. So Israel is going to be beleaguered. But she's got to do what's right for her, and that means she has to defend herself from attacks from extremists and from radical Islam. And she just needs to get together. Israel's got to be unified and trust the Lord, because before it's finished, only God is going to be the help of Israel. The other nations are not going to be with her.